Lord Beerus, the all-powerful god of destruction of Universe 7, feared by many for his incredible strength, his short temper, and his ability to destroy any planet with a single tap of his claws. It goes without saying that someone of such power is to be respected and treated in the highest regard, lest his wrath be unleashed. And yet, the guy hangs out with mortals on a weekly basis and is overall disrespected by people who are, technically speaking, beneath him in the universal hierarchy. Sometimes it's unintentional, and other times Beerus' status is straight up ignored by mortals and other gods. In short, Beerus really doesn't get the respect he deserves, and we have 15 moments from Dragon Ball Super to prove it. Let's start off with the beginning of the God of Destruction Beerus saga, which depicted the deity waking up from his slumber looking for a feast, which an unnamed planet prepared for him. However, the people of the planet eventually found half of their world blown up by Beerus' destructive power. Why did he do this? Well, the point of Beerus' job as a destroyer god is to, as you might imagine, destroy. But he's not a bad guy. His job is to rid the universe of evil planets full of bad aliens or something along those lines. He tends to stretch the definition of bad guys when he destroys planets, and the planet that prepared his feast is the perfect example of this. Sure, they might have had some bad people on the planet, but Beerus only destroyed half their world because the feast they prepared was too greasy for his liking. And by offering him this food, they were disrespecting him, thus he destroyed half the planet. This more so paints Beerus as the disrespectful one, since he acted like a petty child. But the chefs could have pulled out all the stops for a guest of his high status. In the future Trunks saga of Dragon Ball Super, we learned that it's kind of, maybe definitely super against the laws of the gods to travel through time. This means that future Trunks, future Bulma, and everyone who ended up using the time machine in Dragon Ball Super are some form of godly criminals. Of course, given the circumstances, Beerus let all of it slide. Plus, Zeno destroyed that timeline and righted everything wrong in the multiverse. However, this wasn't the end of mortals messing around with time. Specifically, Bulma continued to work on the leftover time machine in an attempt to understand what her future self built, and learn to manipulate time in the same way. And since this was all an affront to the gods, it was pretty disrespectful to Beerus that she continued to work on developing time travel, despite knowing it was against godly law and would invoke Beerus' wrath. Beerus didn't harm Bulma as a result of this, but he did destroy the rare element she needed to complete the time machine. Sure, Bulma was just attempting to push her scientific knowledge further and didn't have any devious intents, but that's what you get for not respecting the rules of time travel. Next up, we have a moment that actually occurred way before the events of Dragon Ball. We are, of course, talking about how the old Supreme Kai ended up trapped inside the Z-Sword. The Supreme Kai and the Gods of Destruction are two sides of the same coin. Where destroyers are meant to destroy parts of the universe, Supreme Kai are gods of creation, replacing what is destroyed with new life. Additionally, their lives are tied to each other. If the Supreme Kai died, then that universe's God of Destruction would also die. This is important to know, since it leads into why and how the old Supreme Kai ended up in the Z-Sword. See, the Supreme Kai and the God of Destruction of each universe meet every 1,000 years or so. And during one of these meetings, the old Kai ticked off the easily irritated Beerus, leading him to seal him away in a sword, getting rid of him without killing him, which would in turn kill himself. We're not exactly what it was that the old Kai did to deserve this, but it was clearly disrespectful to Beerus. Or maybe Beerus just has a short fuse. Both are possible. The first time Goku met Lord Beerus, it inevitably ended up resulting in a moment of disrespect. This is usually the case whenever Goku meets a deity, since he's a big ol' knucklehead who has no sense of social grace and always wants to fight strong guys. But most of the time he doesn't experience any kind of ramifications for his bumbling antics. With Beerus, however, things didn't go so smoothly. Goku's desire to fight the God of Destruction was not seen as endearing, but rather as annoying by Beerus. There's a good reason why Beerus felt disrespected by Goku. He's just some mortal who thought that asking an actual god to fight was a good idea, and a totally normal thing to do. Seriously, it's no wonder Beerus whooped his butt and humiliated him while doing so, leading to the infamous forehead flick. Suffice it to say, Goku challenging Beerus was disrespectful in every way possible. Even if Goku didn't intend any disrespect, since he just wanted to fight someone strong, he still belittled Beerus' power and status by asking him to battle, and assuming he was cool with the request. In short, Goku is a big freaking doofus. Next up, let's talk about Yamcha. Yamcha has some pretty undesirable personality traits, and apparently failing to read a room is one of them. However, before this instance of Yamcha's stupidity disrespecting Beerus was another example of Yamcha almost getting the entire Earth destroyed. After Beerus showed up to Bulma's party, the destroyer started mingling with the people of Earth, one of them being Yamcha. The mullet-headed idiot managed to almost anger Beerus enough to get the Earth destroyed by slapping him on the back with a bit too much friendliness and familiarity. This friendly slap to the back was straight up disrespectful, and Beerus almost made that abundantly clear were it not for Vegeta stepping in to quell the destroyer's anger. Let's turn back the clock again to a time before the events of Dragon Ball. Before Beerus made his way to Earth, before he entered and awoke his great slumber, he had an interaction with the King of the Saiyans, King Vegeta, an interaction that did not go so well. This specific moment in Dragon Ball's history was a flashback courtesy of Vegeta, who recognized Beerus upon his arrival on Earth as the destroyer god who tormented his father. However, King Vegeta kind of deserved it for attempting to pull one over on and thus disrespect a god of destruction. The story goes like this. Beerus employed the power of the Saiyan army to retrieve the universe's most comfortable pillow, which they managed to find. However, they decided to keep it for themselves and give the universe's second most comfortable pillow to the god of destruction, hoping he wouldn't notice. The issue is a bit petty and all that, but the point stands that King Vegeta was asked to get something and tried to double-cross Beerus, a majorly disrespectful move that Beerus rewarded with some painful retaliation. King Vegeta should have known better than to attempt to undermine a god of destruction. After the first time that Bulma showed Beerus what she's made of, she made sure not to anger the god again, going so far as to treat Whis and Beerus to Earth's best food every time they came to visit the planet. As such, Beerus became a bit more lenient with how much respect he demanded from Earthlings, especially Bulma, though he himself continued to be something of a jerk to the Z-Fighters and their friends. Case in point, when Bulma came up with the idea to summon Shenron and ask him for the location of the final Super Dragon Ball. Beerus gave her a backhanded compliment, saying she wasn't a useless nag like he thought. To this, Bulma justifiably smacked him over the head. Bulma then immediately cowered in fear, knowing the ramifications of hurting and thus disrespecting a god of destruction. Luckily, Beerus let it slide since she had such a good idea, and probably because his power stopped the strike from actually hurting. Regardless, the point still stands that by smacking Beerus across the noggin, Bulma pulled a majorly disrespectful move on a god of his status. Getting a slap to the back wasn't the only instance of Beerus getting disrespected at Bulma's birthday party. He was also sprayed in the face by Goten and Trunks, who were having a water gun fight on the boat. The two weren't trying to spray Beerus, but their game got a little out of hand, causing the god to get a little wet. This disrespectful moment came while Vegeta was attempting to keep Beerus pleased with the party food, giving him takoyaki as an offering. Unfortunately, Trunks and Goten's water fight ended up soaking Beerus and his food, a totally disrespectful accident that made Beerus mad. Now wait, he wasn't just mad, he was furious. So furious, in fact, that Vegeta opted to dive into the ocean to hunt and kill an octopus so he could make new, fresh takoyaki for Lord Beerus to appease his appetite. Yeah, if it wasn't for Vegeta bending over backwards for Beerus, he would have destroyed the Earth in response to kids playing, which, while innocent, still resulted in something of a disrespectful moment. Though, to be fair, it's just water, Beerus. Maybe chill out a bit. All you need's a towel. There's no need to blow things up. Perhaps one of the most memorable parts of the Beerus saga was when Vegeta burst into a Super Saiyan rage after Beerus struck Bulma. Vegeta's rage was powerful and made for a great character moment, showing just how much he cared for his wife. But what was it that led Beerus to hit Bulma? What circumstances led to this outcome? Well, it was actually Beerus' own disrespectful behavior. As we illustrated in previous entries, Beerus was being the worst party guest, and being just plain terrible overall. As such, Bulma rightfully stood her ground, slapped him and told him off. However, she wasn't aware of his status as a god of destruction, meaning she didn't know her completely justified lecture to him was technically disrespectful, at least in terms of hierarchy. Again, Beerus totally deserved to be slapped. He was being a jerk. Despite the fact that he deserved it, Beerus still retaliated against Bulma's slap with a slap of his own. A brutal act that sent Vegeta into a rage, shifting the tone of the saga to one of immense danger. We cannot say it enough that Bulma had every right to slap Beerus, but it was still a form of disrespect. As if it wasn't bad enough that Goku challenged a god of destruction, when he eventually got the chance to fight Beerus a second time, it led to an even worse sign of disrespect. After gaining the power of a Super Saiyan God through a special ceremony, Goku not only had what it took to fight Beerus head-on, he also attained the form that Beerus dreamt about fighting, and with both of these, Goku could prevent the destroyer blowing up the Earth. Thus, their fight began, and to test out just how much stronger his Super Saiyan God power made him, Goku decided to get back at Beerus for the forehead flick he gave him when they first fought by doing the same thing to the destroyer. Flicking Beerus on the forehead and chopping his neck was straight-up disrespectful fighting moves, but it doesn't end there. Following this childish display, the battle descended into even more childish antics, which led to Goku biting Beerus' tail and yelling in his ear. Yeah, it wasn't what we'd call a proud moment for these characters, which is why the forehead flick and neck chop are some of the most disrespectful things Goku has ever done to Beerus. One of the few things that keeps Beerus happy and stops him from absolutely obliterating every single thing that annoys him is food. Good food will satiate the god of destruction almost every time, and it's basically the reason why he's continued to let the Earth be, since its food is too darn tasty to destroy. On the flip side though, Beerus is also pretty irritable when it comes to food. If he doesn't get it, he can get really angry. Case in point, when Goku and Vegeta were training with Whis on Beerus' planet, they ended up ticking off the destroyer by eating all of his pizza. This came about when Whis teleported Goku and Vegeta inside his staff, which worked a lot like the hyperbolic time chamber. In this dimension, the two needed food to survive on, so they ate all the pizza that Whis had gathered and saved for Beerus to eat. Thus, when Beerus asked for more than his initial portion, he was met with empty boxes, setting him off. Goku and Vegeta needed the food to survive, but eating Beerus' food was definitely a bad idea, bordering on disrespectful to someone who loves food as much as he does. Next up, we have the final moments between Champa and Beerus, which resulted in the former being rather rude to his brother. During the Tournament of Power, each time a universe's combatants were all eliminated, the universe was erased from existence. The last standing universe would remain in existence, and as hard as they tried, Universe 6 didn't quite make it to the end. The very last member of their universe to be knocked out of the battle were a pair of Namekians, whose defeat marked the erasure of Universe 6. As the Zenos wiped Universe 6 from existence, Beerus watched as his brother was about to be erased. And instead of saying a heartfelt goodbye or apologizing for being a jerk all these years, Champa opted instead to give a rude gesture, using his final moments to be downright disrespectful. To be fair, it wouldn't be Champa if he didn't do exactly this, but that doesn't make it any less terrible that he used his last seconds to stick his tongue out at his brother. Beerus seemed to be pretty somber about the whole ordeal, possibly actually mourning his brother, but he was also probably a little angry that Champa disrespected him. Like we mentioned before, Beerus' relationship with the mortals of Earth is far more casual than it was when he first showed up on the planet. Instead of wanting to destroy the Earth, he keeps it in one piece due to all of the delicious food it has to offer. In Dragon Ball Super Broly, we found that Beerus' chill attitude towards Earth and the mortals on it has been pushed to new extremes. What makes us say this? Well, after the flashback story elements, the film brings us to present day, where Goku and Vegeta are sparring above Bulma's new private island. Joining her on the island are Beerus and Whis, who are partaking of, you guessed it, Earth food. When the threat of Frieza and Broly enter the plot, everyone but Beerus heads out to investigate. And since Beerus stays behind, Bulma casually leaves her infant daughter in the care of the Destroyer God. Beerus is a big old softy who proves to actually be something of a good babysitter, but the fact that Bulma asked a god of destruction to babysit in the first place is definitely pretty disrespectful. As the Dragon Balls took a secondary role in the series, Shenron's appearance still felt big and important. However, in Dragon Ball Super, we learned that the Eternal Dragon is actually pretty low on the deity totem pole, and he was acting a bit more high and mighty than he actually was. And he did his whole high and mighty Eternal Dragon shtick in front of Lord Beerus, disrespecting the Destroyer by implying he was above him. Of course, he quickly realized that he was in the company of a Destroyer and just as quickly humbled himself in front of Beerus. Ever since then, Shenron's pulled back on his disrespectful high and mighty attitude whenever Beerus is present upon his summoning. Last and certainly not least, we have the incident that pushed Beerus over the edge during Bulma's party. Yes, we are of course referring to the pudding debacle. When Beerus arrived on Earth, he ended up enjoying Bulma's birthday party while looking for a Super Saiyan God to fight. Namely, he enjoyed the heck out of all the food, eating everything there was to offer. After trying pretty much everything, there was one food he still had yet to try: pudding. Unfortunately, all the pudding was being hoarded by Majin Buu, who was eating every jar of it and didn't plan on sharing any with Beerus, punctuating this by licking all of it. This set Beerus off, sending him into a rage that shifted his character from a friendly party guest to an antagonist who was out for blood. By denying him pudding and licking every jar of it, Boo majorly disrespected Beerus.